I stayed in the cabin last October. Still can't talk about it out loud, so I'm writing it here. Maybe to get out of my head. Maybe as a warning. I've been burned out. City noise, deadlines, a breakup that left me flat. So I booked this cheap off-grid cabin in northern Maine for a week. It was listed on a weird little rental site, not Airbnb. The photos look peaceful. Old wood, forest all around, no internet. It was perfect. The host was a man named Daniel, maybe mid-50s, quiet type. He wore these thick brown glasses and didn't say much when he handed me the keys. Just one line. Keep the door locked after dark, and don't go reading the guest log. I thought he was trying to be funny. The first day went fine. I made coffee, read a little, got some work done. No reception, but I liked that. I slept well. At least I think I did. On the second morning, I found an old book in a drawer on the writing desk. Leather cover, worn edges. Inside were handwritten notes. The guest log. I know he told me not to read it, but curiosity won. Most entries were normal at first. Lovely stay, saw deer, that kind of thing. But as I flipped through, they got strange. Someone knocked at 3 a.m. No one was there. There's breathing from the closet. He's watching from the trees. Some pages were torn. One entry just said, "Don't trust Daniel." I closed the book and laughed nervously, brushing it off. Probably someone trying to be creepy. But that night, I woke up cold. The front door was wide open. I know I locked it. I got up, shut it, and double-locked it. I checked the windows too. Everything seemed fine, just off. The air felt heavy. I barely slept after that. On the third day, I noticed my toothbrush was wet. I hadn't used it yet. One of my socks was missing. My phone, which I left off, was on and open to my notes app. There were 5 entries, all written like a journal, but I hadn't typed them. I can hear them walking upstairs, but this place has no second floor. There's a trap door under the rug. I didn't open it. Someone did. I felt sick, like something was watching me from behind the walls. I ran out and drove into town, found a sheriff, told him everything. He got quiet when I mentioned the guest log. That cabin hasn't been rented in years, he said. Daniel, if it's the same guy, was arrested back in 2006, trespassing, impersonating a state worker. He used to sneak into seasonal cabins and pretend he owned them. Didn't know what to say. He agreed to follow me back, just to be sure. When we got there, the cabin was still there, but something felt wrong. No footprints in the dirt, no tire tracks from my car. Inside, my bags were gone. The sheets were clean. The kitchen looked untouched, like no one had been there in months. The sheriff looked around and said calmly, "Maybe you went to the wrong place." But I knew every board on that porch. I knew the creak in the third stair. I knew I'd been there. Still shaken, I left that night and booked a hotel in town. I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I pulled out my laptop, thinking maybe writing something would calm me down. That's when I noticed a folder on my desktop I hadn't created. It was named Guest Log 014. Inside were photos of me sleeping, from angles inside the cabin, from behind the window, one taken from above my bed. The timestamps were all from the nights I stayed. But here's the thing. I never connected to Wi-Fi, never plugged in my phone. My laptop has been offline the entire trip. There was one video file, just audio, static, then a man's voice, calm and whispering. She read the log. Subject imprint complete. Next scheduled guest, 015. I reported to the local police, gave them the laptop. They said they'll investigate, but I never heard back. A month later, I checked the same rental site out of morbid curiosity. The cabin listing was still there, same pictures, different host name. But the tagline was what made my skin crawl. Come write your story. Leave your mark. Went to the cabin to be alone. Not in a dramatic, heartbroken kind of way. I just needed quiet. After months barely on emails, Zoom calls, and sleepless nights, I felt like my brain was running on fumes. I wasn't sad, just tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. The cabin was tucked deep in the Vermont woods, about 30 minutes from the nearest gas station, and a full hour from anything resembling a town. It was early November. Most of the leaves had fallen, leaving behind these tall, bare trees that looked like black veins against the gray sky. The air was cold, sharp in my lungs, and everything smelled like wet earth and pine. When I first pulled up, I remember thinking it looked like something off of a postcard. Small, weathered, but sturdy. The kind of place where time just stopped. The fog clung to the treetops, and in the fading light, the cabin almost looked like it was holding its breath. Inside, it was strangely charming. Creaky pine floors, an old stone fireplace, shelves lined up with dusty books, and just enough warmth to feel cozy. There was a big window in the living room that looked out into the woods. During the day, the view was stunning. Trees as far as the eye could see, a thick blanket of orange and brown leaves, and the sunlight cutting through the branches like gold threads. I actually felt good, lighter somehow, like my brain was unclenching. But then I noticed the door. It was on the far wall of the living room, opposite side of the fireplace, not like the others, older, wrong. There was no knob, just a heavy iron handle and two rusted bolts. The edges were sealed with layers of gray duct tape, peeling and cracked, and there was an old strip of police tape hanging crooked across the top. I called the owner out of curiosity. He answered, but when I asked him about the door, his voice changed. That door? No, there's no door in that room, he said. You sure in the right cabin? I read him the address. If there's a door there, don't open it. Then he hung up. That night, the wind howled, the rain hit the roof like soft footsteps, and somewhere deep in the cabin, I heard tapping, slow, from the other side of that door. Each night it grew louder. At first I told myself it was the wood settling, or maybe branches hitting the roof. But it wasn't random, it was rhythm. 3 slow taps in silence, always between 3 and 4 a.m. The second night I stayed up with a flashlight in my hand, watching the door. Nothing happened. The moment I gave in to sleep, it started again. By the third night, I started dreading the dark. I pushed the couch in front of the door, just in case. But the tapping didn't stop. It almost sounded annoyed, closer. I keep thinking, maybe I'm dreaming this. Maybe I'm losing it. So by the fourth night, I had to know if it was real or if it was just in my head. I needed proof. I set up my phone on the kitchen counter, aimed directly at the door. I let it record overnight while I forced myself to sleep with earbuds in, playing white noise. The next morning, I sat down to watch the footage. For a long time, nothing happened. The camera was quiet at night. I saw only a flickering fireplace and shadows moving slowly on the walls. At first, I thought I hadn't caught anything unusual. Then just before 3:20 a.m., I noticed something small. The door handle moved very slightly. It was almost easy to miss. I slowed the video and watched it carefully, frame by frame. The handle turned slowly, and the bolts made a soft, rattling sound, like something was trying to get out. I waited, expecting the door to open or for a shadow to appear, but the door stayed shut, and after that moment, the rest of the footage showed nothing strange. No footsteps, no noises, just the quiet creaking of the old cabin as it settled. It felt like something was trapped behind the door, struggling but unable to get free. At 3:19 a.m., I appeared in the frame. I wasn't awake. My eyes were closed, and I was standing barefoot in front of the door. My lips were moving, whispering something, but the mic on my phone didn't pick up the words clearly. It was just a soft spoken murmur, like I was repeating the same thing over and over. I watched myself on the screen for almost a full minute. I never touched the door. I just stood there, whispering. Then slowly, I turned and walked back out of frame. I didn't sleepwalk. I never have. And even called my mother later just to ask, hoping she would tell me I used to as a kid. But she said no, never once. I couldn't remember standing in front of the door. I had no memory of any of it. And yet, there I was. Calm, quiet, like I had done it before. Still shaking for what I seen in the footage. I couldn't bring myself to stay inside. My hands were cold and my chest felt tight, like something was pressing down on me. I needed fresh air and space to think, so I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The morning was cold and wet. Mist hung low across the trees, and everything smelled like damp earth and pine. The forest was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like something was holding its breath. I walked around the back of the cabin, past the tree lines where the undergrowth grew thicker. That's when I saw it. Half hidden beneath tangled bush and broken branches was a shape that didn't belong. I pushed some of the overgrowth aside and found what looked like the remains of a wall. Old gray wood, partly rotted, with moss growing in the cracks. It was leaning against a tree like someone had propped it there, deliberately. Built into it was a door. It looked almost identical to the one inside the cabin. Some weather planks, some rusted bolts, same thick iron handle. But this one was different. The bolts were torn out, the frame splintered at the edges like it had been forced open by the other side. The wood around the lock was cracked, and the door hung slightly off-center, as something had burst through it long ago. There was no sign of any full structure, no foundation, no walls, just a door and a part of a frame standing alone in the forest. I stepped back and looked around. The area around the door felt strange. The grass was thinner. The trees nearby looked unhealthy. Branches were bare and twisted. One tree had deep marks in the bark, like it had been scratched over and over with something sharp. I didn't feel like a place where people were supposed to find. It felt like something had been sealed off. and whatever it was, it had already gotten out. I decided to leave that place immediately. I didn't bother cleaning up or taking a final look around. I just packed, got in my car, and drove until the trees thinned out and the sky felt normal again. Back home, everything felt quieter, but not safer. I tried to forget what happened, to convince myself it was just stress, maybe even a dream. But every now and then, around 3 a.m., I'd wake up cold, standing beside my bed. My mouth is moving, whispering something I don't remember saying. I haven't told anyone the full story. I don't think they would believe me. But I know what I saw, and I know what I felt. Some stay closed, and whatever was behind that second one, it's not finished with me yet. When Daniel and I found the listing, we were both a little desperate. A quiet weekend in the woods sounded like the reset button we needed. After months of tension, cold dinners, and sleeping on the opposite side of the bed, we just wanted to feel like us again. This one looks, we collective, I joke, holding up my phone. The cabin listing had at least 6 mirrors visible in the photos. Daniel chuckled dryly. We have no trouble staring at our problems. We booked it anyway. The drive to the northern Vermont was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you notice every crack in the windshield and every word left unsaid. By the time we reached the cabin, the sun was low, casting a long shadow between the pine trees. The place was tucked deep into the woods, old. 2 stories with ivy creeping up one side and a rusted swing hanging in the back. Inside it was cozy, dusty but charming. Wooden beams, a stone fireplace, and what rustic smell of pine and something older underneath. But the mirrors, they were everywhere. Big ones, small ones, full-length ones. Most were unique, gold framed, and an oval shape with cloudy spots where silver had worn away. One hung in the hallway, facing a blank wall. Another leaned in the corner like it had been placed there in a rush. Okay, it's a little weird, I admitted. Daniel shrugged. Maybe the owner used to be a dance instructor. We laughed for a moment. It felt normal. The first night passed without much fuss. We made dinner, lit the fireplace, and even cuddled on the couch. It was the first time in months I felt like Daniel's hand on mine without it feeling forced. The second night, I was brushing my teeth in the hallway bathroom. In the mirror, I saw Daniel walk behind me. I turned around, smiling, expecting a joke, but no one was there. I walked to the bedroom. Daniel was still in the shower, singing off-key like always. That night, I barely slept. The third night, Daniel shook me awake. Did you come into the living room earlier? No, I said, heart racing. Why? He rubbed his face. I saw you, just standing there by the fireplace. You didn't move, you just watched me. But you were in bed when I turned around. We started covering the mirrors with towels, every one of them. But in the morning, they were neatly folded on the floor, as if someone had gently removed them. That same day, I found a small leather-bound journal in the nightstand drawer. Inside, it looked like my handwriting, but I never wrote it. The entry described things we hadn't done yet. What we'll eat, what we'll say. Daniel laughed it off until we read the final entry. He breaks the last mirror. That's when it begins. Okay, Daniel said, voice tight. We're leaving tomorrow. That night we argued. He was on edge, pacing the living room. I don't like this, he snapped. Something's wrong. I keep seeing you in places you're not. Dan, we'll leave first thing. Just don't touch the mirrors. He didn't answer. He picked up the fireplace poker and swung it at the mirror above the mantel. Glass shatter spraying the rug. Behind her, the wall wasn't solid. There was a shallow cavity like a hidden shelf, and inside it, nestled in the dust, was a black camera. Its red light blinked. "Jesus," Daniel whispered. "It's been watching us." We packed in silence. The car wouldn't start. Our phones were dead. We hiked 2 miles before passing trucks finally gave us a ride into town. We hadn't spoken about the trip since we got back. Daniel threw out a journal. I deleted the listing, reported it, and blocked the number that confirmed our booking. No one ever responded. The cabin isn't listed anymore. It's like it was scrubbed clean. No address, no owner, no record of our stay. But every now and then, late at night, I wonder if it was ever meant to be rented at all. And Ackley was watching us through that mirror.